Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another 7 Ways to Wealth Masterclass. I'm super excited to see everyone. Come on in, come on in. So we have a great masterclass for you guys today. You guys already know that I love real estate. So we're going to be talking about real estate today. But before I introduce our guest speaker, I want to know how you guys are doing. How is the community doing? How are the trustees doing? Can you come off mute? Can you let everyone know how it's going where you are? Let us know how the weather is. Let us know where you're tuning in from.
Well, I'm new to the community, so I'll say hi to everybody. I'm excited to be a part of it. Just signed up last week. I'm taking my course next week. So I am new. So I'm happy to be here and peace and blessings to everybody on the call.
Awesome, Marlon. We are so happy to have you here. So, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Wealthy Trustee community. And we're going to have a wonderful workshop next week. So, I'm so glad that you took that leap of faith and decided to join us, trustees. So, welcome, Marlon.
Appreciate
Um,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Who else? Who else is in the building? I see Nixon is in the building. Hey, Nixon. I see Calvin. I see Miss Betty. I see Ramon. How are you guys? I see Miss Ghazi.
Hi, hi, how
Hi.
are you?
Good, good, good.
I am good. I come off the mute. Look, I was supposed to get my hair done during the pandemic, but I couldn't. My granddaughter couldn't come to me because we were snowed in.
I
So
know.
that's
Oh my gosh.
yes, yes. So I'm
Where
waiting for.
where are you, Miss Betty? Are
Right
you?
now, I am in Williamston. I am from Tarboro, North Carolina.
Oh, yes.
But right now, I am in Williamston, North Carolina at the group home.
Wow.
Yes.
Yesterday I was talking to one of our trustees that's in Charlotte, and he
Mhm.
was showing me how it all the snow that they got in Charlotte. And I was like, okay, North Carolina, I see you guys are getting some snow over there.
Yes. Yes, we had 11 inches at my house, and I think the same here in Williamston.
Wow.
Yes, but I'm
You
glad to be
stay
on it.
warm,
So,
Miss Betty.
so what there?
I say you stay warm and
Oh, I am.
dry.
Believe me, that's why I got on this turtleneck in the house and I got on my jean jacket. But I am.
Yay.
It's good to see you. You
Awesome.
look so beautiful. I love your
Thank you
hair.
so much. Thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate you. All
Mhm.
right. So I just checked the post in the room. It looks like everybody is doing well. So let's go ahead and dive into what we all came here for. So I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker. His name is Mark Andre. He is the founder of Dowland Investments, which is a real estate investment company. So he has been a real estate investor for over a decade, and he specialized in short-term rentals, midterm rentals, wholesaling. So what he's going to do tonight is he's going to teach us some tips and tricks and give us the foundation of wholesaling. So some of you guys might be familiar with that type of real estate investment style or strategy, and some of you guys might not. Okay, so I am excited to introduce Mr. Mark Andre so that he can give us all these gems. So, Andre, Mr. Mark Andre, you have the floor. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Oh,
Oh,
you
of
still,
course, of
oh, there
course.
you
Thank
go.
you for having me. Thank you for
Mhm.
having me. I really, really appreciate it. So, it's an honor to be a guest speaker here, speaking to your group. I love real estate. Like you said, I've been investing in real estate for over a decade, and if I get a chance, I will talk about real estate all night long. So keep me accountable. When it's time for me to stop, let me know, right? Because I'll just keep going. But yeah, so a little bit about me. My name is Mark Andre. I started real estate investing. I want to say, what is this, 26? So like 15 years ago, or started thinking about real estate investing 15 years ago. And after doing some YouTube University and some, shadowing and stuff like that, I actually went out there, bought my first property, made a bunch of money, and it's been, on and popping ever since. I think my first deal closed in like 2013 or something like that. And so I've built a company from the ground up. So we now do real estate investing in 4 states. So we are based out of Alpharetta, Georgia. We buy and sell residential real estate in Alabama, Ohio, and now Illinois. We're actually going to be looking at the Carolinas this year to do some more investing out there. But yeah, so we buy and sell residential real estate. Majority of our income comes from the active side, which is either flipping property, wholesaling property. We do have some passive investments in some rentals. We have midterm rentals, and we also purchase real estate at the auctions, primarily tax auctions. So those are tax liens, if anybody knows what they are. So we do a little bit of everything. And so, the deal makes sense, we'll be interested, right? And so what I'm going to talk to you guys about is primarily one of our exit strategies, which is wholesaling. The reason I like talking about wholesaling or that as an exit strategy is because it's one of the low risk, low expense introduction into real estate investing. And I think once you kind of get the basics of it, anyone can really do it, right? Um, and so that's what we're going to go over. So I know you guys are on here because you have assets and you're protecting those assets. And so this is just another way of acquiring said assets so that you can then move them into your trust and keep those assets, within your family. So to go ahead and say wholesaling, what is wholesaling? So wholesaling is, in an essence, what it means, right? The word wholesale, right? So when you think wholesale, you think buying something in bulk and then selling it retail, right? Which means you pay a very low cost per item up front, and then you turn around and you sell it for a profit, right? So that's primarily how we acquire real estate. We buy real estate super, super cheap, right? And so we then turn around and we sell it to other investors who can then still make an immense amount of profit afterwards, right? And so that's primarily what it is. And so how do we find these properties and how do we get these properties super, super cheap is really like the bread and butter. We are very active and we are all outbound marketing. What that means is that we now do about 45,000 to about 55,000 dials a month as far as reaching out to people. So I have a team, we have certain criteria that we pull, right? So when we're entering a new market, or regardless of what market we're in, we will pull a certain criteria. And that criteria can be any type of distressed property, any type of property that fits within that particular criteria that we're looking for. Sometimes it's individual single family homes. Sometimes it's multifamily property. We tend to stay under 4 units because then once you get into 5, it's commercial and then there's a whole different beast. But not saying that we haven't, but we typically only cater or market to properties that are 4 units and below. And a 4 unit property is called a quad. Similar to 3 unit is a triplex, duplex is 2 units, and then single family houses, right? So when you're looking for a property and you're wanting to find something at a discount, 9 times out of 10, there is something that is wrong with that property, meaning there is a potential value add, right? There's something that either needs to be repaired or upgraded in order for that property to then be whole. So we target the properties that are distressed. And an example of distress, there are 2 types of distress, right? So there's physical distress, and then you have financial distress, right? Physical distress is stuff that you can see every day. It is, properties that have blue tarps on the roof, properties that have those pages that are stuck to the windows. You might have tall grass, trash in the yard, plants growing out of the gutters, trees falling on the property, cars in the property. I mean, just any type of distress, right? Broken windows, boarded up doors, anything of that nature. Also, missing mailboxes. I know people bypass that. If the property does not have a mailbox, something's going on with it, and it might be, something of your interest, right? So we look at those physical distresses, but on the flip side, you also have what is called financial distress. And so financial distress is, what it's called, right? That means bankruptcies, people going into foreclosure, behind on their mortgage payments. people that, have back taxes, right? They may have some other financial situation that may not be related to the real estate or the property that they're in or own. And so they do need to liquidate those in order to acquire or get that capital to then, see about their other business, right? Think of like hospital bills or, something along those lines. Um, you also have situations where families inherit property and they just don't want them anymore, or they don't want to deal with the hassle of being landlords, or, they just want the cash out of it. So they look to liquidate those. You have landlords who have been, being landlords for 20, 30 years, and it is time for them to get out of it, and they just want to liquidate their portfolio. So we do have some of those as well. So that's kind of the distress that we target, both financial and physical. And then once we find out that list, like remember I said we do about 45,000 to 55,000 dials per month. Well, out of that is thousands and thousands and thousands of sellers or homeowners that we contact. So I have a skip tracing company as well that we identify the contact information for that list. So think about you go purchase a list, right? The list is going to have, per your criteria, 1,000 addresses, right? Once you have those addresses, you still need to know who owns those properties. So you have to then what we call skip trace, meaning identifying who owns those properties and then get their contact information, phone numbers, emails, social media handles, relatives' phone numbers, emails, social media handles. We get it all, right? And so my team makes outbound calls every single day, Monday through Saturday, to those homeowners or potential sellers, and we let them know that we're interested in making them a cash offer. And so think of the we buy houses. That's kind of where we come from, right? And so we let them know that we're interested in purchasing their property. They let us know that we can go F off, they bang on us, or they say, yes, thank you for calling. We've been actually, considering this, or we've been looking out. And so once we identify, or once the sellers raise their hand, then our team, our back end team, or our acquisition specialists, they go in and they analyze the property, identify kind of, the condition of the property, what's the seller situation, and then we come up with an offer that makes sense, right? So we're not trying to steal anybody's house, right? We're not trying to force any situation. In order for us to win, our sellers have to win too. So we create that win-win situation, and we were able to agree on prices that we make. But it's not always, right? I'll be honest with you. I would say out of those, let's call it 50,000 dials a month, we probably do like a 3.5% response rate. So, we're talking easily, I don't know, like 15, 16,000 responses. And then out of that is another 10% of interested people. And so think of that as, another 1,500. And then out of those people who are interested, I would say it's about maybe one or two per hundred, right? So the more people we call, obviously, the more opportunities we get. And, we were making offers on those folks who actually think of it as a funnel, right? So you have your top part as the end all original list, and then we funnel them down to get the most distressed or the most interested people in selling. And then we make offers to them. And then we have a whole other KPI on, monitoring which offers were accepted, which offers were declined, follow up, etc. And I would say on average, we probably follow up maybe 6 to 8 times per lead or per deal. So it's a lot of calling, a lot of constant follow up. We have power dialers, right? And so this allows us to call multiple people at the same time, which helps make those 55,000 dials a month. And so that's how we're able to, reach that many people. And we're small scale. If you think that's a lot, I have a lot of people in this industry that do hundreds of thousands of dials a month, right? So we're like just tip of the iceberg when it comes to the level of investors that are in every market. So once you find a seller and they, let's say, accept the price or the offer, then we'll move into either walking the property, getting our pictures in, because remember that's just one half of the battle, right? So when you think of that's the acquisition piece, right? So that's how we acquire the property. We now have to then market that property if we're looking to wholesale it as an exit strategy to our investors. So then there's a whole other piece to that called disposition, that I have disposition team that does that. So what they do is they get all the pictures of the property, they put together a nice marketing, and I'll kind of share my screen if they allow it to show you a little bit about that. But if you see in my background, these are the typical pictures of the properties that we get and the pictures that we take. And so we want to make sure you're taking, these aren't the listing pictures. If you guys have ever purchased property at all, you know a listing picture that you see on the MLS is super wide and nice and bright and it looks gorgeous, right? Because they're trying to, show that property as best as they can. We kind of do the opposite. We want to make sure it looks terrible, right? Not saying that we want it to be terrible, but when it comes to selling to investors, investors are looking at deals constantly every single day. They don't have time to go through nice pictures and then when they walk the property, it's not as pictured. So we try to show exactly literally the exact condition of the property, right? So if the roof is terrible, we're taking pictures of the roof. If there are no mechanicals, we're making sure we show that. If there are holes in the wall, holes in the roof, we're showing that. If there's rust anywhere, terrible windows, boarded up, like you name it, we're making sure that we give an exact synopsis of that property, right? Because a lot of our buyers buy virtually. So sometimes they may buy the property sight unseen because we take really good pictures, right? And so we send those out, we market it. We have, thousands of investors on our buyers list. And so we are able to send those properties out. And sometimes, I might throw something on social media or I might try a different marketing. We don't do any ads or anything for either buyers or sellers. We tested it out a little bit. I didn't like the results, so we just kept it the way we're doing it now. But when we find a buyer, they give us an offer or they want to look at the property. We do schedule walkthroughs if there are tenants involved because we do buy tenant occupied properties as well. Mostly vacant though because of the condition. And so they walk the properties, they like it, they make us an offer. We either accept or we counter offer. We never just outright reject an offer because I'll tell you, investors in this business most of them don't make offers. If you are asking, let's say, $100,000 for a property and they think it's worth only 50, they won't even make a $50,000 offer, which is like crazy to me, right? But we always counter offer if it's too low. And then, once we get that property sold, we then take both of those agreements. Because remember, we had a purchase and sale agreement for our seller, and then we now have another purchase and sale agreement for our end buyer. And we send those to a title company or a real estate attorney, depending on what state. I don't know if you guys are nationwide, international. If it's international, it's a little tricky, but you can create an LLC and you can do business in the United States as long as you have a partner that's here. But for the nationwide folks, right, they may have to close virtually. And so we send it to our title company. Now, Georgia is an attorney state, so you have to close with a real estate attorney, but not every state is that way. I mean, Ohio is a title state, so you could just close at a regular title company. You don't need an attorney. But we send those documents in, they pull title, they make sure that the property is free and clear of any type of clouds, any type of encumbrances, anything that will prevent a smooth transition via a warranty deed over to our end buyer. Once all that's great, most of our buyers are cash, so we don't have to wait for financing or them to be approved for a loan per se. And so we close and we get paid, right? And so that's kind of like, again, high level overview. There's a lot of in between stuff that has to go into play. And it's a lot of work. A lot of people don't succeed in this business because they don't put the work in. Um, and it's just, I mean, it's the nature of it, right? So if you're a go-getter, if you're someone that takes immediate action, and real estate investing is something that you might be interested in because you got to get assets, right? What are you going to put in your trust if you don't have any assets, right? So for me, I think it's important whether it's real estate, whether it's crypto, whether it's stocks, whether it's land, I mean, you name it, right? You want to have something of value, diamonds, I mean, whatever it is, baseball cards, hell, art, all of that stuff you need to acquire, and you have to figure out how the best way for you to acquire it at a really discounted price. And then sometimes force the value, right? And you can do that with a lot of different type of assets. So that's kind of what high level stuff does. We cherry pick some of our deals and we keep them and turn them into long-term rentals. We might flip it and resell it retail, listing it with an agent, or sometimes we do a flat fee listing, which means you don't need an agent to sell the property. You can just pay the listing fee and throw it on the MLS, and then you can filter your buyers yourself. And then we're now this year, well, we also buy tax liens, but that's a whole different topic. But this year, we're probably going to be holding or keeping a few more just because we can shelter a lot of those, taxes at the back end with forced depreciation, accelerated depreciation. And so our accountant was like, you got to hold more because you're paying too much in taxes. So that's my high level overview. I can talk, but I want to open it up for some questions and see if anybody out there is, have any questions. I don't know if somebody's monitoring. Christina, I don't know if you have someone on your team that's monitoring like a questionnaire or the chat or anything, but feel free to unmute if you have a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I do want to open up the floor for questions. We do have Ivy on the team as well, so she's manning the chat.
Okay, what's up, Ivy?
Hi, can I ask a question
You sure can.
about repairs?
Yes, ma'am.
It seems like that's kind of the hard thing to do now with even if you get a place and you
Uh-huh.
want to enhance it so that you could probably get a bit more money for it. I
Mhm.
find that getting and finding reputable contractors and things to be a problem. How do you get around that?
That's a great, great question. Before we even get into that, I will tell you that wholesaling real estate, you do not need any contractors. You do not have to fix the property. You don't have to lift a hammer. You don't have to pull a permit. You don't have to paint. You don't have to do anything. I literally sell properties that I never touch. I don't even see them. Right? We pay people to go take the pictures and then we market them and we sell them as is. Same way we purchase them, right? But if you are buying something and you are looking to renovate or add value, you are going to need reputable contractors, right? And so before you get scammed or before they take your money, you want to check their work, right? So first thing is if you're investing in your backyard, right? Then you want to drive around the neighborhoods, especially the ones that you're purchasing in, right? But your neighborhood is fine, right? And you want to look for existing rehab projects. So you're going to see properties that are currently being rehabbed right now, and you can pull up on them, right? Don't be afraid to talk to them. If they don't speak English, you can ask for their boss. We have Google Translate in the pockets, right, in our phone, so you can easily communicate that way. And you want to look at their work, like, ask if it's okay, can you see what they do and that sort of thing. Or if they, connect you to a GC, then that GC can become your project manager or your general contractor for your project. The days of, going to Home Depot at 6 o'clock in the morning to find contractors. I mean, that some places it probably still works, right? But our current environment right now, politically, it's gonna be tough, right? So walking existing projects is good. You can reach out to other investors and ask if they have any referrals. That's gonna be a little challenging because as investors, we don't like to share too much of our our folks because we need them for our projects, right? And there's just not enough capacity for that. But that's one of the best ways I've found great contractors. Facebook Marketplace is also a good place to find good contractors. They have a lot of Facebook groups, mostly in Spanish, but I mean, you can go in there and translate yourself and reach out. So those are, I would say my top two. Another way of finding contractors is just talking to people, right? Maybe there's an app, it's called Nextdoor, I think. Nextdoor is like a neighborhood app, and so people usually share when they get a good, decent contractor that did work. They'll usually share pictures and give them high reviews and stuff like that. And there are also websites that also talk about. I think Angie is one that has good contractors, but there are different places that you can find. But you want to be careful with those because you need to vet those people. And I would say, pulling up on their work site is probably the best way of vetting because you get to see their work and you can actually see, how they did and what they do. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Do you do co-housing properties now too?
Co-housing. Are you talking about co-living, like
Yeah, the
a pad split?
co-living. Yeah.
So pad split is kind of like the new name for co-living. I mean, co-living has been existing for decades, years, right? I would say that pad split is now like the frontier company, like how Airbnb is for room rental. But co-living is a great, and I would say if you haven't looked into co-living, we're actually looking into co-living as well. It is a great way of increasing your cash flow, right? Because you can charge per room and the total amount of rent that you'll be able to get per property is a lot higher than your traditional average tenant who rents the whole house. With pad split or co-living, you do have to add multiple bedrooms because it's basically just room rentals, right? So the only shared space you should have is a kitchen and the entranceway, right? Bathrooms are going to be shared, and you're wanting to convert living room, dining room, dens, office, all of that into bedrooms because you're then going to maximize the square footage of that property. Think of a property, let's say like a split level or a two-story. Oh my God, you can kill it with like 9 bedrooms in one house, right? It works for places that have like a lot of public transportation. So you don't want to have a co-living place in like, you know, really high-end neighborhoods because one, they're probably not going to allow it. And two, most of the folks with pad split don't have cars. So you need to be like on the bus line or on the train line or something like that. If you are gonna rent to folks who have vehicles. You just want to also make sure you have enough parking because that's one of the reasons that co-living doesn't work. If there is not enough parking for each of those bedrooms, you're gonna create a lot of issues for their neighbors. They're gonna complain, right? Because there's just no parking. You can't park on the grass, especially if it's a property that has HOA. Sometimes the HOA won't even allow co-living, so you want to, think about that as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Who's next? Oh, don't be shy. Listen, I'm giving the game away for free. I'm telling you, ask your questions.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So when you're figuring out I don't know what you guys call it. You know, you have your cheat sheet on how much you want to buy it for and how much
Mhm.
the new resale would be. So you kind
Correct.
of project how much you're going to spend per square footage for the future value. So on the
Or
wholesale
okay.
side, like you
Mhm.
said, you don't touch it. You're just kind of like doing a finder's fee, basically. And
Right.
so you
We're the
have two
middleman.
different you have two contracts, yeah. And so you
Yeah.
have the contract that you're getting it from for the seller, but you don't go in the escrow first before that, right?
No, we
By the
go in
you hope
escrow. I mean,
you go into
because at the end of
escrow?
the yeah, we go in escrow. Because at the end of the day, we have a built-in due diligence period. We'll get our earnest money back if we decide that we either can't sell it or don't want to buy it or something like that.
Okay.
And we just get our money back. Now, there are two ways of wholesaling property via agreements, right? We don't say contracts, we say agreements. You can
Okay.
do a purchase and sale agreement, both sides. We call it an AB and a BC. Or you can do a purchase and sale agreement and an assignment of contract, right? So an
I'm in a
assignment of
contract.
contract
That's what
just
I'm familiar
replaces,
with.
yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
replaces your name with your end buyer's name. The
Mm-hmm.
thing with assignment of contracts is you are letting everybody know how much money you're making. So as long as your buyer is okay with you making either close to
Mm-hmm.
what they're going to make, more than what
Mm-hmm.
they're going to make, right? Because people
Mm-hmm.
will count your pockets, right? And so we vet
Yeah.
our buyers all the time. And I have a question whenever I'm verifying buyers. I'm like, if I bought this property for $1 and I make 100 grand or I make whatever it is that we're selling it for, would you be okay with that? And if they're
Right.
not, then you're not the right buyer for me and I won't do business with you, right?
Right.
So
Right.
with assignments, also when the sellers sometimes see that you're making a huge amount, although they know, right? They know that you are making a profit, right? We're not nonprofits, we're not NGOs, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they still kind of get a little finicky when it comes down to when they see the actual numbers, right? They feel like then, oh, we could have sold it for more or something like that. So we typically, if it's over like 10,000, I'll double close. And typically we double close about, I don't know, 80% of our agreements. But you had another question. I'm sorry. We kind of went off on a rant
So
there.
yeah, the assignment, I'm used to that. So tell me about the AB to the BC.
Yeah, so the AB is just, it's all agreements, right? So the AB is what you have with your seller, right? Mr.
Right,
Seller, I'm purchasing the property from you, right? My contract is going to have an assignment clause that will allow me to assign it to anybody, right?
right.
And sometimes it's used when you're buying in one entity and then you're holding in another entity. A lot of times you can just assign it into your holding company at close, right? So
Got it.
you want to be able to assign it. So you want to have that wording in your agreements that
Mm-hmm.
allows you the ability to
Mm-hmm.
assign.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in our agreements, we have a good faith clause. A good faith clause is just an addition that my attorney thought that we should add when we had a conversation that allows the seller to know that you're an investor and you're buying this for a profit. And there may be other ways that they can sell their property for more, but they're choosing to sell their property to us in good faith, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that just kind of reinforces that we are doing this as a business and we're doing this for profit. And I have
For
all of that
profit.
stuff in the course that I have that I don't market, so you're never going to see it with no ads or anything like that. If you guys are interested, you could just reach out to me and I'll give you some contact information at the end. But I have those things. And I how did I figure that out? Through lessons, okay? When I bought my first property back in 2013, I downloaded that agreement off of the internet. I didn't change anything to it. I just put my name on it. It was the worst contract ever, okay? But it still got the job done, right? And so, a lot of times in business or in anything, we get into this analysis paralysis where we think everything has to be perfect and, we can't move forward unless we get this right or that right. Man, let me tell you something. I had no idea what I was doing when I sold my first deal, and I made 11 grand on my first deal figuring it out as I went. I didn't know title companies, I didn't have buyers, I didn't know how to reach buyers. Like it was a lot. But I had that agreement. I got that seller to say yes to my offer, and it was through an agent, believe it or not. They called one of my bandit signs, right? Those are those we buy house signs that you see on the side of the roads. That's how I got
Mm-hmm.
started, was putting out bandit signs. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things where you'll learn as you go. But to answer your question, those are the two agreements that are going to help you make money in this business.
So you don't lose when you actually close twice and pay the double close transaction fees?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to pay two. Come on. What? Yeah. Okay. So when
That's
we
what
purchase
stops me.
property,
I was like,
no, it
I
can't
don't
stop
want,
you. Listen, if you're
that
making
stops me.
$25,000, what the heck is 3 grand in closing costs you got to come out of pocket for? Cut it out, Ethel, cut it out, right? So what you got to do is you have to underwrite accordingly, right? So if you know you're going to have a big spread, you have to account for the extra closing costs because when we purchase property from sellers, we are buying it where we're telling them, which we are, and that's what we do. We pay all closing costs, we pay all
Mm-hmm.
commissions. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to lift a finger. You literally are going to
Mm-hmm.
collect a check minus your taxes because you got to pay Uncle
Mm-hmm.
Sam. We can't pay him for you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we have to double close, that's because we're making a significant amount more than what we would assign it for. So we'll take the hit, right? In order to identify like the best real estate attorney or title company, you got to call them. You got to figure out what their fee sheet is. You can ask them for a fee sheet. It'll break down all of their
Mm-hmm.
fees and what they charge. Like I paid $3,200 in closings last week. I sold this triplex in Savannah. We made a boatload of money on it, and I was okay paying the closing costs, right? Because I knew that on the back end was going to be a significant amount, right? So you just have to account for that.
So do you use, like, for instance, if you're going to buy something wholesale for 100,000,
Uh-huh.
then you figure that your ARV has to be probably 170, 200?
So here's what I would like you to do, right?
Uh-huh.
They have this 70% rule that's been floating around for years and years and
Right.
years, right? It's a guide, right? It's a guide. At the end of the day, it's going to be hard trying to figure out your rehab costs as a new investor, right? I
Mm-hmm.
still have, I'm not accurate, right? But I mean, even if you're an investor and you flip property, there is soft costs that you have to budget for, right? That
Yep.
things that you just don't see. When you open walls up, there are things that you find that you,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't budget
Mm-hmm.
for, right? So it's going to
Right.
happen. What I would suggest is you speak to you can go to Home Depot and you can get a list of materials, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
talk to a bunch of contractors and other investors and find out what their soft costs are. Hell, you can Google that stuff, right? And figure out, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how much it is to, update a bathroom, right? Our
Right.
bathrooms are like 5K each, depending on the size of it. Kitchens are
Mm-hmm.
usually 10 to 12,000, sometimes 15. Roof is going to be anywhere from 4 on the low end to about 8 on the high end. Windows are like 250 a pop, 350 a pop. Like there are things that you can kind of figure out. Carpet, you can call Home Depot and you can say, hey, how much for carpet?
Oh
And they
yeah, I've
install,
done that.
right?
Yeah,
You can get
it's
those
easy.
quotes, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of start calculating that stuff. What we teach our team, well, my acquisition managers, I teach them that I do like a light, medium, and heavy rehab. So if it's a light rehab, it's gonna be, anywhere from like 20 to 25,000, or we'll
Mm-hmm.
do like, I don't know, $50, well, $25 a square foot, right? If it's a medium rehab, then it increases more. It'll be like maybe 50K. And that number, excuse me, has gone up since COVID because of
Of
inflation,
course, the
right?
materials. Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Labor too. Oh, don't sleep on labor. Like
Mm-hmm.
now,
Oh God,
labor is
that's bad.
increasing.
That's what's real bad.
Listen, labor is increasing right now because people are getting snatched off the street and they're scared to come out. So the ones
Mm-hmm.
who are bold enough to come out, they know they're in high demand and they're charging more for their labor. So don't get it twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Those costs will always go up, right? So you got to account for that. I would say use the 70% rule as a guide to start, and then you want to be way below 70%, right? So you want to
Mm-hmm.
be not only, so the way it works with the 70% rule, so all of you who don't know it, you can Google it, 70% rule real estate, and it'll pop up. It's basically you take the ARV of the property, which is the after repair value, right? What it's going to cost when you sell it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you find that out, and the way you find that out is you just have to look at three comps or three properties that are like similar to your property that have
Mm-hmm.
sold. We are only going back 90 days now. We don't go back 12 months like an appraiser would do, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't go back 6 months. If there's no comps, then we probably will have to go back 6 months. But I underwrite all of my stuff, or I teach my team to do so at 90 days, sometimes even 30 days, right? We also don't go past the half a square mile radius of the subject property, right?
Okay.
Most appraisers go like 2 miles. Well,
Right.
if you guys are in Georgia or if you're in any major city, when you cross one street, it'll change night and day. It goes
Mm-hmm.
from the hood
Mm-hmm.
literally to mansions, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
can't necessarily just use that. So we try to stay close to the neighborhood. We try to stay, within walking distance, half a square mile, right? That's our radius. And then we look to see what the renovated properties have sold for. And then we kind of take an average, right, of, the top three, not the outlier, because you eliminate the outlier. So if something sold for 1 million and nothing else sold for 1 million, that's an outlier, right? If something sold on even on the low end for 10,000 and nothing else sold for 10,000 and the next one is like 50, the 10,000 is the outlier, right?
Got
We
it.
sometimes use an outlier for anchor pricing, but that's a whole other strategy of acquiring property. But you want to make sure you find the ARV. Once you find the ARV, the 70% rule states that you take 70% of the ARV minus your repairs, minus your fee. Okay. We then go even further down, right? We inflate our repair costs because of, just we want to be conservative. And then we also do a conservative ARV. So we don't like to get the highest ARV because that's always like highest and best. You want to take, somewhat under that as your
Mm-hmm.
ARV, because our investors, and here's the other thing too, interview your buyers, right? When you come across somebody that wants to buy real estate, now again, this is only for if you're wholesaling as an exit strategy, right? If you're going to do the work, then you just have to know it for yourself. But you want to interview them and say, how much, what is it costing right now for rehab? What's your per square foot, right? Building a property right now is anywhere between $100 a square foot and $150 a square foot, right? This is to build brand new, new construction. Renovations are like on the lower end. It's like 25 to about maybe 60, $65 a square foot, right? On the renovation side. So as long as you know those numbers, you can kind of have a generalized idea of what your rehab costs are going to be, and then you can factor that in. But what I show my team to do is basically you want to look at what are the as is properties selling in that area. Remember the same half a square mile radius, the same no further than 90 days past sales. You're wanting to
Right.
look at the lower end and seeing, okay, so if this property that you're thinking of 100,000, if something sold for 90, what was the condition of that? How did that look? How does that compare? If something sold for 120, what did that look like? How does that compare? And then you kind of figure out, okay, so investors are paying on average 90 to 120 for as is properties that need work. And then you can kind of figure out, okay, if my investors are going to pay that, I need to get it cheaper. Does that make sense? Because we
Yes.
still have, when we sell our property, the ones that we wholesale, well, I mean, if it's super good deal, we'll keep it, right? But if the margins aren't where we want to be as far as our minimum amount per deal, then we will turn around and we'll wholesale it, right? But we still need to wholesale it so that our investor buyers make money. Because if they don't, they'll look at our email and they'll just bypass it, right? They won't respond. And then our reputation of providing really good deals kind of falls down. So we always make sure that we're doing right by our investors because they are the ones that are paying us.
I get the money, but I always feel bad for the end user
The
because I'm
end
in real
buyer,
estate. The end buyer, yeah, we're
why?
paying more because they're paying more. The first time buyer, that's the ones I'm talking about. They're paying more than they really had to pay
No,
with
they
all the
won't.
bells and the whistles.
No, they won't because if let me tell you this, if it doesn't make financial sense to them, if the numbers don't work, they're not buying it, right?
Mhm.
They're not buying it. Now, as a newbie investor, right, who has no mentorship, no training, right, and they're just wanting to jump out there, that's a risk that they're taking, right? Now, we're not going to sell a newbie investor a deal that doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? Because again, I need to see that my investors are winning, right?
Right.
I love to see that my investors are winning. I don't run an operation where the people that are buying properties from us are losing on the back end because that's not a good business model, right?
Right.
So I make sure that my end buyers are knowing what they're getting themselves into. And we'll haggle on price. I mean, listen, lowballing happens to everybody, right? The seller thinks we're lowballing them. We think the investors are lowballing us, right? But at the end of the day, you can't feel bad for somebody that's spending the money on something that they think they can make money on. Does that make sense? Right?
Yes.
And if it's too much, no one's going to buy it. You're not going to get anybody to respond to you. So underwrite it as if you would buy it and then just take a little bit off of that for your profit as your finder's fee, and you'll make some money in this business. I promise you.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. It's a great question. Who's
Thank
next?
you.
You're welcome. Ooh, Christina, I got to start calling some people out, huh?
Okay, as a seller, I,
Uh-huh.
I I have a property now where
Uh-huh.
I have two separate companies. They've been
Okay.
calling me. The first time they gave me a low ball offer, and I just said no,
Okay.
leave it alone.
Okay.
But then another company called me, and they gave me like $40,000 more.
Okay.
I was like, okay, well, there's something. Then the other company called back. So I've been sitting there saying, why the heck am I going to sell? I might as well put some money in it and rent it. Because
100%.
apparently something is going on with this property that everybody seems to want. And now there's this huge difference. So that's what I think I'm going to do because
Mhm.
now these wholesalers or whoever
Ooh,
is
don't
they're
do that.
haggling for the property.
Don't do that, iPhone. Don't do that. These wholesalers, no. So you made a great point, right? You made a great point. So every industry, they're bad apples, right? Let me state that very clearly. I deal with other investors, and I say investors because again, wholesaling is just one exit strategy, right? All investors are not created equal. Okay. Also, landlord investors are very different than flippers, right? A landlord investor, they're looking for a cash flow. They're looking for a cash on cash return, right? They're looking for monthly increments. They're not so much harped on purchase price as long as when they do their underwriting after their debt service and all of their maintenance and vacancy. And if the property needs work, they'll put aside something for capital expenses, right? They're going to need to make X number of dollars per month. A flipper is not concerned about that. They're looking for that end chunk, right? That bulk money at the end of the sale. So flippers will, by nature, always pay less than a landlord will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got you.
So that person who offered you 40K less than the other person was probably a flipper. And then the person who offered you 40K more is probably a landlord. Not saying that that's the case, but all investors aren't created equal. A lot of investors, we don't have the physical cash. I would say 98% of investors out there who buy cash do not physically sit on cash. None of us do. Our cash is out there making money for us. It's like little soldiers, right? We send them out. We don't keep cash, right? And so a lot of times we're leveraging hard money, private money, right? We're leveraging IUL cash buckets, right? A lot of times we are leveraging other resources in order to purchase our properties, right? So each resource that it's coming from, whether it's hard money, private money, or wherever, is going to have a different rate associated with that. It's going to have a different set of rules or what have you. And so it may or may not afford me to buy, or it may not, it may not work for me if I'm using hard money, because hard money is going to be the highest, right? 12%. I got to pay points, all of this stuff, right? So if I'm using only hard money, my offer has to be low enough so that I can carry those soft costs. Because if it takes me 30 days to rehab that property, or 6 months to rehab that property, every month I have to pay an amount back to my hard money lender, right? While I'm going through this. So it just depends, right? It depends. You can't quantify each investor based, or all investors based upon just one or two. But I would say for you, as I tell everybody this, I even tell sellers this. If you can keep your property, keep it, right? As long as you can afford to maintain it, keep it, right? Because at the end of the day, that asset will only what? Increase in value over time, right? So if you think you can keep your property and turn it into rental, do it. Don't sell, right? 10 years down the line, instead of getting 140 or whatever that number is, it might be 240. Does that make sense?
Yep, got you.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Now I'm not looking at the chat, so all the questions that were in the chat, I can't see it. Who else has a question? No one?
Somebody asked, is now a good time to buy property? Everything is
Absolutely.
overpriced.
Absolutely. Every time is a good time to buy. Yesterday was a good time. Today is a good time. Tomorrow is a good time. Now, depending on the strategy will determine the market, right? So right now, with high interest rates and stuff like that, and we're in a buyer's market right now, so buyers have a lot of negotiating power. And so you just want to make sure that you're buying it right and that you're using the best strategy for the current market, right? Co-living is a great opportunity right now because it's affordable and a lot of people cannot afford just traditional financing. And so that's a great strategy. You have a lot of people that are doing, midterm rentals. That's a great strategy. We're doing really well with those. Flipping is still great as long as you put out a really great product, and you underwrite it and get it low enough so that you can actually sell it for a little bit less than what's out there. That's also doing well. Buying and holding is always going to do well. You just have to make sure you buy the property right. If you buy it too high and you're barely making anything as far as your cash flow, one crazy tenant or one bad damage to something is going to wipe out your cash flow for a year, if not more. So you just need to be super, super careful about how you do that. But I will never say there's never a time that's not good to buy. I just saw something pop up with midterm rental. So a midterm rental is it's not a short-term rental and it's not a long-term rental. A midterm rental is in between. And so it's basically a minimum 30-day stay, right? So we are on all the short-term platforms, Airbnb, Verbo, HomeAway, Facebook rentals, all of that stuff. And so Zillow rentals, sorry, and Facebook Marketplace. We rent out units at a minimum of 30 days, and it's a furnished unit, and it's for business travelers, medical professionals, doctors. People come to have babies because we're near hospitals by design, and so our midterm rentals are doing fairly well, and it's a minimum 30-day stay. All right. What other questions out there?
Someone in the chat asked, where can I find a good place for holding the earnest money, such as an escrow account?
Okay, so where can I find a good place to hold money? Um, if it's an international person, if they're overseas, you're gonna want to have an LLC created with someone who lives in the state that you're investing in, and you guys can create a separate account just for the LLC, and you can hold your funds in there before you purchase. If you're referring to the escrow account for the real estate transaction, well, the attorney that you're dealing with or the title company that you're dealing with are going to have their own regulated escrow account so that at closing, you will wire your funds or your proceeds to that attorney's escrow account. Never send anybody money directly.
Thank you, Mr. Andre. There is a follow-up question right here. It says,
Mhm.
I would also like him to elaborate more on finding a buyer through MLS. Where would we
Yeah.
get the contract and how will we know it's a good contract?
So again, seek mentorship, right? It's very, very important that if you don't know, right, you have to either put in the work to learn, right? Or you can pay someone to bypass that time frame that it would take for you to learn, right? And have somebody coach you through the process. Um, I hate seeing people going out there and they're super excited and they're, really, really motivated and they want to do it, but they think they can do it on their own. And the losses of doing that or the consequences of doing that is just too high. It's a lot of money at stake. People are buying bad deals all the time because they just don't have the right coaching or the right mentorship. So I would say seek that first. Um, and at the end of the day, you could still analyze yourself, right? You'll know based upon the comps, which are the comparable properties that have sold in the area, if you're getting a good deal or not, just by looking at it, right? Um, and so, as far as listing it on the MLS, so there are not that many brokerage firms that allow you to list your own property. Top Brokerage is one. My guy Nico, he runs that brokerage. He allows you to list your properties on the MLS by yourself. I think it's like either $500 or $1,000. I'm not sure what he charges now, but that's a cost that you're going to eat. Whether your property sells or not, you have to pay that up front to put it out there. But just know that no one's going to be filtering those calls for you, right? They're going to be reaching out to you. So you have to be confident in yourself and know what you're doing or know what you're talking about because you're going to get agents, you're going to get investors, you're going to get the whole nine reaching out to you. And so just kind of be mindful of that. But yeah, there are other discount brokerages out there that you can do it. But again, if you've never bought and sold real estate, I would not suggest you do that. I would suggest that you pay that real estate commission, right? Agents out there are working super, super hard, representing buyers and sellers. They're doing the work, they're negotiating, they have a wealth of knowledge, they know their markets. Please don't cheap out on them. It's 1%, or not 1%, I'm sorry. It's 3%, right? We're talking $3,000 on 100 grand. Come on, right? That is peanuts compared to the amount of work that they do. Um, I actually held a real estate license at one point in time. I never represented a buyer or seller. I actually wanted to, funny story. When I started investing, I did not have access to the MLS. I did not have access. I mean, Zillow wasn't even around, I don't think. And so we needed comps, right? We needed analysis. So I used to reach out to agents and I would say, hey, can you just send me a CMA or a comp sheet of this property? And so after a while, they'll be like, okay, bro, I'm not working for free, or, let's sign an agreement or whatever. And I was cheap about it. I was like, well, I'm not paying you 3% if all I'm asking you is for comps, right? I'm finding the deal, I'm negotiating the price, or, I'm going to be the one talking with the seller, I'm going to be the one selling the property, all of this stuff, right? Why am I paying you this percentage? So I went and got my license to cut the agent out. And funny enough, through the education of getting my real estate license, I realized how knowledgeable they are, right? Because they teach a boatload of stuff. Now they don't teach investing. There's like a very short one day lesson on investing, but the majority of the stuff, about learning about real estate and all this stuff, it was absolutely mind blowing. And so after I got my license, I passed the exam, passed the state exam, got my license. I then started interviewing brokerage firms because that's what, you're supposed to do. It's not they're interviewing you because they want you to pay their passive commission. So I made sure I found a brokerage that was good, that was close, that was okay with investing, as they said. Berkshire Hathaway is who I went with. And after a year of not doing any transactions, they were like, "What's up, bro? Like, what you doing?" And so I told them, I was like, "Well, we're doing well. My company's doing well. We're doing this, that, and the third." And they were like, "You're what?" And so I was like, "My company, right? We have an agreement. You have an agreement with me as a person, but you don't have an agreement with my company. Like that's a whole different thing." And they dropped me for for investing in real estate. And so after that, my license went inactive and I never updated. I still take the continuing education. Like I'm all up to date on my courses and all that stuff that they make you take, but I'm just like I don't need it anymore. There's so many systems that you can pay for. I mean, we have PropStream. PropStream is one that we use that is I think like $200 a month or something like that. And so that gives us all the comps that we need, but Zillow works just as well. You don't need to pay that. But if anybody's interested and they just want to check out the stuff, we have a 7-day free trial. If you guys want to test it out, I can send you a link. Let me know. But yeah, that's what we use. So I would say if you have, let's say you want to sell your house, right? Like you have a house and you just want to throw it out there and see what kind of offers you get. It's going to cost you to list it with a brokerage firm that does flat fee listing. That's what it's called, flat fee listing. So you can kind of, test those out. But again, just know you're going to come out of pocket for it. Hope that answers the question.
So what do you do about do you like to deal with programs? And what do you do if you encounter a career tenant? The ones who knows about all the loopholes and squatters' rights and staying in your place and
Wow.
getting around the laws and skirting around everything.
Terrible.
I know.
Let me ask you a question, Michael. So I'm gonna ask you a question, but then I want to know about the program that you're referring to. I don't know if that's the word that I don't know which program you're referring to, but let me ask you this. Do you have a car?
Yeah,
Do you drive on the road?
sure.
You know all these accidents on the road and people running red lights and trucks ramming into cars and all this stuff, right? Does that stop you from driving?
No, not at all.
Then that answers your question, buddy. Right? And I hate to be that direct, right? Because in
No, you
every
got to be
single
that
thing that
direct.
we
I
do,
I actually, Mr. Dowden, I appreciate the direct, the straightforwardness because I think it's what we need in this business, honestly.
100%.
And
100%.
you know, but I'll tell you, it is daunting. It's not for the faint of heart trying to get one of
No,
those tenants out of there. And
no.
I'm
I got
getting
a
a kick in the
story.
pants right now. Yeah,
I got
yeah.
a story, boy.
I
I
got a
mean, I
lot
have
of stories.
stories,
Me
but
too. Yeah.
I can tell you, so it's gonna happen, right? If you're a landlord, at some point in your real estate investing journey, you're gonna run into a tenant that just don't like you, that just doesn't care, or that hustles you or swindle you, right? Every investor that has properties that rent them out long term, they're going to tell you it happens. Evictions are just part of the process, right? Which is why it's important that you buy right and that you cash flow right. Okay. But I would say that cash for keys works, right? Again, you want to follow the laws and the rules of your state. Please do not pull up on these folks because they will shoot you and they will have every right to do so. Okay. But what I'm saying is you can't just break down the door. I mean, you see all these stories on social media about creative ways of getting problem tenants out, and sometimes they may work, right? But you just want to follow the laws, file the evictions, right? Go through the process, get them out with the sheriff. You're going to incur a little bit more than you typically would on a turn because even when it was a great tenant, right, and they left, they may not leave your property in perfect shape, right? The elderly ones who don't have mental illness typically do, right? They will clean up after you, right? Because I know we offer, hey, your deposit, if you clean it, we're guaranteeing it, right? Just so that, they have something that they can use to maybe put down on somewhere else, right? But there are creative ways of getting problem tenants out. We bought up and sold a property in East Atlanta Village for the folks that live in Georgia. This guy was living in this lady's house for 20 plus years, paying rent. I mean, she was a slumlord, floors caving in, roof leaking, all of this stuff, right? When he found out that she was selling the property, he stopped paying rent. And so she got with us, I want to say like 6 or 7 months afterwards, after him not paying rent. And we were like, oh, this is perfect. We love this. Yeah, we'll take care of this for you. Not knowing what the situation was, right? I mean, this guy was Irish. He was a mean bastard, right? He wouldn't let us even go inside the property, right? He's threatening everybody that comes in. We're sending sellers out there. He wouldn't let them in. And we're like, what is going on with this guy? So, long story short, we pulled up on him, one of my business partners at the time. We pulled up on him and we just talked to him like, yo, what's going on? The reason is he's been there 20 years. So he's already set in his ways, right? He's already comfortable. He's been living, this is his area. He doesn't want to move because it's an unknown for him and he's scared, right? He's scared of the unknown. So we're trying to figure out what was going on. I brought Guinness, right? And some other things that I knew he liked. And so we sat, he invited us inside. He's like, you know what, you guys are cool. Yeah, come on, let me show you. And he started showing us the stuff. And I'm like, as I'm drinking a Guinness, you don't mind if I take a picture, okay? Right? You know, that type of stuff. But, you have to understand in this business, it's not all about the money, right? These are people's lives that we're dealing with, right? Especially when you buy tenant occupied property and you're going to serve them an eviction, well, not an eviction, but serve them notice of, you know, no longer continuing with the lease or, 30, 60-day moving, right? These are people's lives that you're uprooting. So you have to be very mindful about this, but understanding their situation, right, is the problem. And as an investor, we are problem solvers. So once we know what the problem is, then we figure out the resolution. Well, guess what? We paid this guy 8,000 to get out. Okay? 8 grand. I was telling people this story and they were like, boy, you are crazy to do that. We made 5x that amount, 6x that amount on that deal after partnering with another investor. So that was just our portion. So, you know, don't be all about the money when it comes to these things, right? Again, understand the people when you're really talking with sellers, especially the elderly folks, right? You gotta be really, really careful how you deal with them. And just understand them as people, and then you'll know how to maneuver. With the terrible tenants, that ship has sailed, right? Because they don't even want to talk, they don't want to deal with you, especially if you're the landlord, right? You just have to go through the eviction process with those.
Yeah, I mean, look, that actually, by the way, that was very sound advice, and I know a lot of this is from a state by state basis, and
Correct.
I wish that were the case here. New York City is one of the
Oh yeah.
worst cities.
Oh, oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
bro. I'm
it's
sorry,
one of the
Michael.
worst cities to try to do
Yeah,
all those
yeah,
things. But
yeah. It's tough.
um, I think that what you provided was very sound advice, and that's actually very well received. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome, of course. Now, Christina, I know we're past 8 o'clock. Can we keep going?
Yes, we could keep going.
Okay, all right. So as long as you guys are asking questions, I know there's a bunch of questions in the chat still. We can keep going. I have the time. I'll stay here till midnight, but yes. Somebody spoke? No?
I
Who's got
have
a
a
question?
question.
Yes.
Christina, I'm
I
gonna have to leave. Excuse me, I'm
okay.
sorry, ma'am, but I'm gonna have to sign off, okay? It was great. I'll be in contact.
Thank you, Miss Betty. Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
with the question.
my question was I had to hop off for a bit, but I hopped
Okay.
back on at the end where I heard you talking about the real estate agent.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm an agent in North Carolina, licensed agent, and I've been wanting to wholesale for the longest time, for years, but I just don't know if it's not ethical or if I could possibly
Oh,
lose my
Kima.
license.
Kima, I thought we
Yeah.
were friends, Kima.
And then my other question is, would I be if I can, would I be able to use the realtor's purchase contract as
Right.
well?
So, yeah, so no, you're not going to be able to do that, right? So here's the thing,
Okay.
right? A couple of things. One, I thought you were going to come and like talk trash about wholesalers because, there's a stigma out there that agents and wholesalers, they don't like each other, right? Agents think we're just doing the same thing they're doing and we're getting, all this stuff, right? Um,
Hmm.
Again, wholesaling is an exit strategy, right? So there are several exit strategies in real estate investing. We are investors by and far, right? I would say first and foremost, you need to have that conversation with your broker, right? Because I've been there.
Hmm.
You don't want them to find out that you're doing stuff outside of brokerage, right? So you want to make
Right.
sure that they allow their agents to invest. And believe me, some brokerages, they do not allow their agents to invest. Okay. It's crazy, but it's true. So have that conversation. Once you've had that conversation, right? Then if they're okay with you investing, right, at that point, you are more than likely going to have to double close every transaction. Okay. Because
Okay.
one, you're going to be representing yourself, right? So you're going to have to pay out their part of your commission, right? Because that's what they
Hmm.
want. They want the commission. So if you can structure it where you represent yourself, you pay yourself the commission on the deal, right? Or your buyer pays your commission, right?
Hmm.
You give them their portion. They might be okay with that, right? Now, as an investor, if they're okay with you investing outside of the brokerage, right? Then you can't do it under Kima Thompson because you have an agreement with them. You are going to
Right.
have to do it under a different entity. So whether you create an entity for yourself or you create a partnership with somebody else, either way it goes, you're going to have to create something separate from Kima Thompson in order to
Hmm.
transact and conduct business that way. That would be, and again, this is not legal advice, right? You still want to just consult and make sure that you're, following whatever state rules that you have to follow, but it is very possible to do it. Now, when it comes to the ethical piece, okay, there is nothing unethical of what we do, okay? The,
Hmm.
the stigma of the unethical piece, right, is the fact that we are stealing grandma's house, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of
Hmm.
the day, as an investor, we are not representing the seller, okay? So in a seller's mind, they sometimes look at us as the professional, right? And they trust us, which they should because we're doing good business. The ones that actually take this seriously and do good business, right? We have
Hmm.
five-star reviews. So there's like no doubt in my mind that we are not doing the right thing, right? Um,
Hmm.
or no doubt in my mind that we are doing the right thing, right? But you want to make sure that if your offer is, let's say, lower than what they can get listing it, okay, you have to
Hmm.
give the seller those options. So you have to say, on one hand, Mr. Seller, you can list it with me, right? You have to pay
Hmm.
my commission. It's going to take X number of days to sell, right? We're going to have X number of showings, right? We are in a buyer's market, so you're going to get a bunch of lowball offers, right? That's going to be your journey, but you can potentially sell it for more because as an agent, that's kind of the strategy, right? That's the pitch. It's like, hey, we can
Right.
get you $1 for this property. It's going to sell fast, right? But you got to be realistic, okay? Because now you're trying to be the investor or you're being the investor as well as an investor who holds a real estate license, right? In real
Hmm.
estate, right, as an agent, disclosure is top priority, right? And that's what I
Right.
had to learn when I went through real estate education, that it's all about disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. Once you disclose, then it's up in the air. So you give them the one option, and then you could potentially say, but I'm also an investor, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller. And if I were to purchase it, I would purchase it from you for this number because here's the reasons why. The kitchen needs updating, the bathroom looks like it's from the 80s, that, you give them the reasons why, as any investor would, excuse me, and then you let them know, listen, I work with a bunch of partners, right? Sometimes we buy and we sell or we resell, and you kind of explain to them a little bit about the process because again, you want to be upfront, right? And you want to disclose so that you cover your end and you can still do it. I know a bunch of agents or a bunch of real estate investors who hold a real estate license who are still investing and buying property left and right. So it can be done. But I would say first things first is you need to make sure that your broker is okay with it.
That sounds great. Now, how would I be able to work with you, or you're going to share your information at the end?
Yes, yes. I'm gonna share my information right before we wrap up. It's just gonna be an email address, and then you guys, depending on what you want or what you're interested in, you can put it in the subject line, and someone on my team will go ahead and filter through those. But yeah, there's not gonna be a phone number or social media handle or anything like that. It'll just be a quick email address because that's the fastest way of getting in contact with me. I
Mhm.
get calls. I mean, my phone is on silent, and I already have 7 missed calls. So it's
Mhm.
just one of those things where it's harder to reach me on the phone unless we're kind of like involved in a transaction, then that takes priority. But yeah, I will share my contact information to everyone on this call, even the ones who hopped off, because I think it's being recorded.
Awesome. One more really quick question. Is it
Yes.
hard to find a closing attorney or a title company to do the double closings?
I would say it's not hard, but that's just part of the work that you have to do. So before I found, so like when we enter a new market, for instance, Illinois, Central Illinois is our newest market. We entered, shoot, it's gonna be like 2 years now. So in the end of 2024, like September, October of 2024, one of my good friends was already buying and selling or buying in Illinois, and she asked me to, I should jump in. We jumped in. We called, I don't know, 20 different title companies to find the right one. And so most of the time, there are two things that you just have to ask, right? One, do they work with investors, right? Because they have to be investor friendly.
Hmm.
And then two, are they familiar with assignment of contracts, double closings, all of that stuff? And if they're not, sometimes you can teach them or explain to them. But if they're not, I wouldn't necessarily trust them to do to do it because they
Right.
haven't done it. And I'm not looking for a title company who is, willing to try. I want someone who's already invested, who's already been doing it, who's very familiar, who can explain. Because again, Illinois is not a state that we live in. I've never been in Illinois. And so, I needed to know the right title company who can help me.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My question was about title companies too.
Yes. Uh-huh.
To do a warranty deed,
Hmm.
and closing, could you talk about those costs? Like someone is going to sell me a piece of property for very, very little, but they're not in the same state that I'm in. They're in like
Got
North
it.
Carolina, and the property is in Virginia. So they have to
Got
turn
it.
the title. So would I get a title company in that state
So
and
you have
then
to,
have
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your question.
no, I just wanted to know about cost and because you work a lot with title companies. I just wanted to see about their costs.
Got it. Got it. So yeah, so I don't know anything about the Virginia market nor the Carolina market. I'm just now, I mean, we haven't even made any initial calls yet. We're still
No,
kind of
that was just an
going over.
example. They were in
Yeah.
it's two different states.
So depending on the state, obviously depends on the cost. So for instance, Illinois' closing costs are freaking through the roof. I didn't even know until we had a property and closed. Alabama, for example, title costs are super cheap, right? Depending on what parts of Georgia. So I think it also depends on the city, right? So like for instance, we use Wasden Closing Group here for all of our Georgia deals. Well, at least north of Macon, right? And then we have another title company down in Albany that does all of our like middle and South Georgia deals. And their costs are completely different, right? So I would say on average for the southern states, you're going to be 2,500 and below. And then for the northern states, you're going to be 2,500 and above. I know my guy Michael in New York, his closing costs are probably like $6,000, right? Because you have to also factor in cost of living and all of that stuff, right? So your New Yorks, your Californias, these states that have higher cost of living are going to be more in closing costs. We paid $2,349 on that Savannah deal that we closed last week. So
That
that
included the warranty deed. That's what I'm saying. The
everything,
warrant,
every single
everything.
thing, everything. Yep. I'll tell you the warranty deed. Where is it? The warranty deed was 695. So hope that helps. Now, what you can do to answer your question in detail is you can call every title company you can get your hands on phone number wise and have them send you a fee sheet. A fee sheet. They do that for free because they want your business. So you can say, hey, I'm a local investor new to your area. I'm interviewing or I'm looking for a really great title company to use for my real estate transactions. Do you guys have a fee sheet that you can email me real quickly or just kind of tell me if you guys work with investors or not and that sort of thing. And they'll email it to you and you can then compare and see which one works best for you.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. What other questions? Did we finish all the questions in the chat?
We still have more questions right here from Jerome
Okay.
Smith. Do you teach people how to underwrite?
Yes, I do. If we passing, at an event or something like that, I'll run it through real quickly. But I do teach people how to fully underwrite. The quickest way to do it is, again, like I talked on the call earlier today, is to just looking at the sales in the area. Your high sales in the area are going to be your rehabbed properties. So that's going to be your ARV. The lower sales in the area are going to be your as is properties. And then you can just kind of see the gap or the range or the spread in between and kind of work your way from there.
Thank you. We have Nadera. How do you really know you are buying right, please?
How do I really know I'm buying right? Because we underwrite each and every deal to the current market condition. So even on some of our follow-up deals, like we have hundreds of people in our pipeline that we are constantly following up every day. And so even with those, depending on the last time we spoke, if it's been 90 days, we re-underwrite that deal because again, sales change, data changes. And so you just want to make sure you're very, very concise with, again, the area, right? You don't want to go over half a square mile radius of your property. You want to stay in the neighborhood of that property. You don't want to go across the street unless there are like properties. If it's a single family, you want to comp it with a single family. If it's a two-story, you want to comp it with a two-story. If it's a split level, you want to comp it with a split level. Townhome, condo, right? And then you want to make sure that you're not going back any further than 90-day history. So on Zillow.com, if you put in an address in Google and you click on the Zillow link, it's going to take you to that property, right? You can go back. There's a back arrow at the top left corner of that page, and it will take you then to a map. And most of the time, if you haven't been using Zillow for comps, it's going to be a bunch of red dots, right? When you click on oh gosh, what is it called? When you click on hold on, I'll tell you. It's going to be a drop down at the top part of the filters on Zillow. And that one in particular is called sold, or it'll say for sale, right? So you can maneuver from the for sale to the sold, okay? Sold are going to be yellow dots, right? Your for rents are going to be purple, and then your for sale are going to be red. So you want to go to the yellow dot section, and then you want to put in your filters, and making sure that you can get decent comps or comparable properties to really identify what your ARV is going to be. And then as far as just making sure that you're really as close as possible to the rehab cost. So if it'll take you some time. I mean, we underwrite in 7 minutes or less now, or at least that's the goal. But when I first started, it took me days. It took me days to underwrite because I was, stuck in analysis paralysis, couldn't really figure it out where I'm going, that sort of thing. So, it's just one of those things where it's going to take time. But that's where your coaching comes in. That's where your mentorship comes in. And whoever those people are, right? I don't have a mentorship program. I do very little one-on-ones because I like people that like to work. And so I don't like wasting my time training folks who are not going to take action. So I'm very selective on the people that I work with. But if you can find a mentorship program out there, you want to vet them, you want to see HUDs, right? You want to make sure that they are doing their, what they say they're doing. I don't know, Christina, can I share? Am I able to share my screen or no?
Yes,
Yeah. Can I show something real quick?
absolutely.
Not the absolutely. All right. Let me know when I can.
You have capability.
Oh, I do already? Okay, so let me share. One participant can share at a time. Okay. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna share my second screen. Let me know when you guys can see my second screen, or let me know, just say yes so I can.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so this is a HUD statement. This is a settlement statement. This is from our last closing. As you can see, Dowden Investments right here. This is our company. This is our seller. We bought the property for 190,000, right? These are our closing costs right here, 2,349. And as you can see, the date on this is, where to go? Right here, January 30th, 2026. So that was 6 days ago. All right. This is the AB. This is what I purchased the property for. Here is another HUD. This is the same date, January 30th, 2026, where I am now the seller and I now have a new buyer who then bought the property for 236,000. Okay? They paid $3,614 in closing costs. And so this is a HUD. So when you're looking for mentorship, you want to make sure that you can ask for those, right? Because they have to be able to show you that they know what they're doing, that they are actually doing the work that they're teaching, right? Because there's a lot of fluff out there, a lot of people that claim to do it that aren't really doing it, but they're just teaching it, which sometimes can work as well. But you just want to make sure that you're vetting the right people before you invest in yourself.
Did you do that HUD statement or did you have that made?
Did I do the HUD statement? No, 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 no. That came
That
from
was the
the
title company.
Yeah, the title company. So when you're buying real estate, right, right when you get to the clear to close, what they do is they draft a receipt of the transaction, which is called a HUD. Some state call it an ALTA statement, but it's basically a settlement of the transaction. So it shows the purchase price, what their costs are, any fees, any lien payoffs. This one had a $15,000 lien payoff from a previous wholesaler that our seller unfortunately had to pay. But other than that, that's kind of like the receipt, right? So it shows your credits, your debits, and then the net at the bottom. And that comes from the attorney. So what they'll do is when everything is in and all the paperwork is signed and they're ready to schedule, they will send out preliminary HUD statements so that you can approve. And so that was, they'll send it as a PDF sometimes, or you have to log into a portal to maybe get access to it, depending on the title company or the attorney that you're using. So they send that, you approve it, and then they put it in the closing documents that you have to sign on closing. But no, to answer your question, we don't do HUD statements.
Okay, you brought up a good point though. How did you deal with that lien from the previous wholesaler? Did you know about it when you bought it?
No, I didn't. So it's a funny question, man. So I'll tell you, bro. So these are the folks that give us a bad name, right? Now it's called a memorandum, or you file an affidavit of interest, right? So typically, the way you should use this document that you have to file with the courts, right? If you're purchasing a property from a seller and the seller is now ghosting you, okay? So you guys agreed to purchase and agreed to sell, right? And now your seller is not taking your phone calls, not picking up, right? So whether you're buying it and wanting to close on it or you're buying it to resell it, whatever the reason is, you're now stuck because either you can't get the property because the seller's not picking up, or you can't sell the property again because the seller's not picking up. They've gone ghost. So typically, because we spend money on these deals, right, before we even close, like we have to pay our people to talk to them, we have to pay our people to take the pictures. Sometimes we have to pay to get, a survey done on land if we're buying it. Sometimes we have to pay, sometimes contractors charge for, scope of works, right? So there's money at play and our earnest money, right? So now, granted, if they go ghost, we'll get the earnest money back, but we lose everything else, right? So there are investors out there who file a memorandum of right or an affidavit of interest showing, hey, I had an interest to purchase this property. The seller is not, wanting to follow, go through with it. I was planning on making X number of dollars. So I'm going to put a lien on the property, right? Or my interest in the property is worth X number of dollars, right? This number is totally made up, right? It could be 100,000. It could be, I mean, whatever number, right? Because again, no one knows what you're truly going to make on it. So we didn't know about that, right? But apparently the seller was under contract with the previous buyer and he went ghost on the previous buyer, right? He said once we found out, because that comes in once you pull the title and the attorney goes through the title history, which is part of making sure it's a clean and clear and transferable title, right? Giving you a full warranty deed, right? She found this affidavit. And she was like, whoa, what's this? So we presented it to the seller and I said, listen, what's going on with this person, this company? He was like, oh, yeah, they wanted to buy the property, but then I never heard from them again. And then later on down the line, they just called out of the blue. And I was like, oh, I'm not selling my property to you anymore. You went ghost, yada, yada, yada. So I was like, okay, I got to take the seller's word for it. And so I called the company because in the affidavit of interest, you have to give your company name and phone number and your name and stuff like that to contact. So the attorney actually did that for us because, again, we're paying them to do it, right? And so she spoke. I really wanted me to call first, right? And not the attorney to call because the attorney is just going to get information. They're not going to negotiate, right? And so basically, the seller said, or the buyer said that the seller went ghost. And so when we looked at the dates, right? So I pulled the original agreement because I had the seller send it to me, right? And then I saw the date on the affidavit, and it wasn't even, it was like 12 days later, right? So that let me know that the seller really did go ghost on this buyer. And so there was some warrant there, but 15,000, come on. So I tried calling the guy and we called him for like a week and a half straight, nonstop. Like, I mean, I had my team calling from all different type of numbers. I mean, we have like 40 different phone numbers that we call from. We were blowing him up, wouldn't take our calls. I left so many voicemails because again, I'm trying to negotiate, right? Because in my mind, if I have to pay this 15,000, I might eat it based upon the amount that I'm making, or I may negotiate it down, right? But then I spoke to the seller and I said, this was before I started negotiating. I said, listen, if you went ghost, it's on you. If they went ghost, we'll try to figure it out, right? And sure enough, when we found out that, based on the dates that the seller was the one that went ghost, I had to have that heavy and hard conversation with him. I say, listen, it's showing that, you went ghost. So, unfortunately, this is on you, right? Now, the seller could have said, well, I'm not selling it. I don't want to pay him, right? But I let him know that, listen, whether this gets done now or later, or if you try to sell this property, this is still going to be on this title. So you're going to have to deal with it at some point. It's best we get it done now. And so the seller accepted. And what's so funny is the seller actually signed the prelim HUD before I even had that conversation. So he knew what he did and he already accepted the fact that he had to pay out of pocket that 15,000. So that's what happened.
I'm glad you went through that because that's why you do the title search. That's why you have other people.
Absolutely.
You don't just do a deal
No.
because there can be all sorts of stuff that can come up.
Man, it is so many things that we find with the title searches. It's bananas the amount of stuff that happens. You have mechanics liens from people doing work on the property that maybe didn't get paid or didn't get paid enough, and they can put a mechanics lien on the property so that they can get paid when the property sells. I mean, there's all kind of stuff. There's one time we had, I mean, I'm dealing with stuff right now in Alabama. This guy has federal tax liens on his properties because he was an entrepreneur at some point and he didn't pay his federal taxes, and the federal government slapped liens on every last one of his properties. Didn't tell us about it until we did the title work, which, oh shoot, I gotta pay that. Hold on, let me make a quick note. I gotta call the title company tomorrow. Call the title company. Sorry, Alabama. Okay, yeah. So we're dealing with that right now, and so we can't sell the property. We had a buyer and everything, because we're not holding any properties in Alabama. Everything that we buy, we sell. And so we couldn't move forward until we have to negotiate with the federal government to do a partial release on the amount. So basically it's like an 8-step process. We have to get appraisals, we have to do all this stuff and then send a packet in to the IRS in order for them to grant a partial release on the property so that whatever he sells it to us for, all of that money is going to go to the federal government. So, you know, it's unfortunate. We had another one, another issue where this is most recent as well, where the property that we're purchasing, we're still actually in current. That one is in Ohio. Um, the lady was married to, well, her husband, her spouse. They bought houses together. The one that we're buying. They have both of their names on it. The seller has passed away. I mean, one of, her husband passed away. He had a son with the same name. The son had a girlfriend who they had kids with, or he had kids with the girlfriend. The son ended up passing away as well. The girlfriend had filed child support on him before he passed, and the child support, whatever department that is, placed a child support lien on all of his assets. However, it wasn't his asset, right? It was the son's asset. And so although the dad passed first, so technically it did become, partly his through probate, the lien still remained. And so we're talking like a $46,000 child support lien, which is crazy. And so I ended up finding out the child support department. I called, I spoke with the person who put the lien on the property. We got it negotiated all the way down to 16,000. Because I'm like, the dude is dead, his son is dead. I mean, the dude is dead, his dad is dead. Like the kids are 18. Like, what are y'all talking about? What do y'all need this money for? Right? And so we negotiated that, and we are now waiting for the seller to then just deed the property over to us, which is a risk. But we're going to deed the property for the amount of the tax lien. That's how I'm going to do the agreement. And so, yes, although I negotiated the agreement, we actually agreed prior to me negotiating the reduction in the child support. So that's part of how we are able to purchase property and then create value. And so the amount that originally we deeded it for was 46,000. And so I just did that because I figured I could negotiate on the back end, which I ended up doing. So it's going to be a really good one for us. We'll probably keep that one. We do have rentals in Ohio. It's a duplex. And so for anyone out there who asked to be on our waiting list, you now know how much we're going to pay for that property. So when you see our for sale price, don't get alarmed.
So I'll just comment, like one of the things I'm hearing here is that in order to get a deal or a wholesale, you have to be able to solve somebody's problem, period. Like full
100%.
stop.
100%. 100%. We are by and far problem solvers, right? Because your traditional buyer is not going to want to do and handle all of that. They're not going to want to put in that work. They just want to get something nice, ready to go, right? Most buyers are retail buyers. So when it comes to investing, we have to be super creative. We have to be able to solve multiple problems in order to make sense. And which is why I say when we are buying, we're not stealing grandma's house. We're creating a win-win solution for both parties. So it's absolutely 100% problem solving.
Can I ask you? So you were just talking about the warranty deed because somebody came back and asked me, this guy was going to transfer property and said, oh, that's okay, just do a quit claim deed. And a friend of mine came back and said, don't do that because a warranty deed gives you more protection. Said because if you just do a quit claim deed, then you're just taking, if it's a problem, then you're going to be stuck with the problem. So
100%.
is that the warranty deed is always the only way to go when you're doing this?
No, the warranty deed is by far the most protected way to go. Plus, you can't get title insurance unless you have a warranty deed. They don't do it on quick claim deeds. I mean, there's a limited warranty deed that you could potentially get, but I would advise newbie investors to always have an attorney or a title company pull title and clear up anything before you purchase it. You don't want to take on problems on your first deal. Have we done quick claim deeds? Absolutely, all the time. We've done tax deeds, we've done foreclosure deeds, we've done, I mean, you name it, right? And so again, once you become, a little bit seasoned or have, a lot more experience, then yes, you can take on those bigger risks. But if it's the one-off, the only time you're buying a house or the first time you're buying a house, I would absolutely not suggest you do a quick claim deed. Now, you could technically pay the title company or the attorney to run the title, but if you're going to do that, you might as well, get it done and get the warranty deed. Now, if it comes up that there are issues at that point, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do next, right? Because you're still on the hook for the title fees, which in my example, I have to pay. Um, but if it's clean, then you're good. If it's not, you negotiate with the seller of how to fix that issue, how to resolve that issue. If it has to come out of their proceeds, then that's the way to go. If you have enough in the deal and you're keeping it and you have it really cheap, then yeah, maybe you guys split it or maybe you take it on. I mean, you never know, right? Every deal is different, but I would absolutely advise warranty deeds is the best way to go, and the most secure way to go for buying real estate. Did that answer the
Question.
question? Okay. Yes. Question. Next question.
Yeah, my name is Sonia.
Hi, Sonia.
Is the memorandum and the
Hmm.
list pending? What's the difference between them? Both of them cloud the title?
No, 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 no. So, okay. So list pendants is not well, how would I say this? So list pendants is usually part of a foreclosure process, right? And so usually that comes, so mortgage company, right? Somebody that loans money, they put a lien on the property up front, right? Through the
Right.
foreclosure process, there are other things that go on the title. And if the property sells at foreclosure, then obviously there'll be a foreclosure on it as well. But typically in a judicial foreclosure, it relieves all of those things. Tax a tax lien is also one that we love because the government is going to get their money and then they're going to release all the other liens as well, right? But we also only get it for the tax benefits. But they're two different things, right? So don't get mixed up in that. A memorandum is something that an average Joe, regular person can file because they had an interest or an agreement between them and the seller that they can protect whatever money that they were potentially going to make on it. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
So they cloud the title. Yeah, and I have one more question.
Sure.
Because I have a property, I'm here in Texas and I have some property that I open title on because when I put it up, it's a friend of mine's, her mother passed. And when
Hmm.
she's trying to sell it, but what happened, and I told her, I was like, hey, you have a special warranty deed. Somebody bought your house with a special warranty deed. And she said, well, I don't know nothing about it. How did they do that? I'm like, I don't know. So I went ahead and opened title to see what's going on with it
Yep.
through a this Tuesday. So what happens when I pull that property up, but everything is still in her mother's name because
Good question.
it's in
It's
contempt. They got a tree fell
oof.
on the
Okay. We love
and
those.
so yeah, the tree fell on the garage. And
Uh-huh.
so what happened, the compliance here in Texas said they got to get it cleaned up. And so
Got
she
it.
want to sell it. She wants nothing to do with it. And so
Right.
I'm trying to see who's the owner of it now. Do
So,
they if somebody said they bought it with the special warranty deed and it's showing like they bought it on the 10th of 2025.
okay.
They bought it in
So
October.
I would say one, I am not familiar with Texas law. We haven't done any business in Texas, so I'm not too particularly sure how to um, resolve that specific situation. Now, what happens when a tree falls on a property? It creates an what it call a code enforcement issue, right? So it
Right.
is a
That's what it
blight
is.
or something on the property. The county has workers that drive around. They see issues like that, or somebody complains, files a complaint, and they have to go and verify it. They will
Right.
let the new owners know, hey, there is a situation with your property you need to take care of, or we're going to fine you, right? So they will find out
Right.
who the owners are, who the new owners are. You can look at the county records. So whatever county that property is in, you can go on the county records and see who the current owner is. Now you've already pulled title yourself.
Yeah, I
And so
did.
you
I
get
did all that.
right. So you know who the owners are. At this point, then you can, there is a free skip tracing website. And I should have said this before. So thank you for asking that question because now anybody who's listening can do it. It's called
And
fastpeoplesearch.com or
as people
another
search,
masspeoplesearch.com, and I would advise or ask everybody to go in there and put your your first and last name and your city and state that you live in, and you'll be surprised the amount of information about you is out there. There's another website called
hold on.
familytreenow.com. So it's fastpeoplesearch.com, and then the other one is
Hold,
familytreenow.com. And
you
so
keep your phone keep breaking up a little bit. Can you say it
oh,
one
I'm
more
not. I'm
time?
not on my phone. Family
Oh,
tree. So how about this? I'll put it in the
okay.
chat.
Okay.
So it is familytreenow.com.
You
And
want to
so
start doing some work in Texas?
no, ma'am, no, thank you. I can't spread myself too thin. We're just now looking in the Carolinas, so that's gonna be probably our next market, Family Tree. I'm
Okay.
just making sure it's spelled the right way. Family Tree now. Yep, that's how it's spelled. Um,
Which
and so yeah, you guys
Carolinas, north or
play
south?
around with it. I'm sorry.
Which Carolina, north or south?
I don't know yet, actually. I don't know. Are you in the Carolinas?
I have property in the Carolinas.
Oh, you trying to sell some property in the Carolinas? Let's talk.
Nope,
Oh.
not at all.
Okay, fair enough. You trying to buy? You trying to buy more?
If it's land, I'll buy land, but I'm
Okay.
not trying to. I have some, so I'm
There.
good. But that's why we're saying if there's land in South Carolina, I'll
In
be
South
happy to.
Carolina. Got it.
hmm
Okay. All right. All right.
But
This is a quick question for me. It's my first question. What's the market like in South Carolina?
I don't know. It's difficult because it's lots of air property. But North Carolina, I hear, is up and running.
Air
Air,
property meaning property that's passed down from generation to
yes,
generation.
yes,
Oh,
and
we love
it's
those too. We love
but
those
it's a
too.
protective state, and if you get into a court, I just recently went through that where
Uh-huh.
I have bought a property, kept waiting to go through closing. They
Uh-huh.
kept pushing it back and pushing it back, and finally the lawyer said, "Well, you could fight this. It might take you about 3 years."
Oh,
Because apparently the title was all wasn't messed up, but they had done something where they were passing the land from one relative to another to another. Somebody would pass it to another relative or sell it to them for $1. They would then
Ooh.
get a loan
wow.
on it. Then they
Oh,
would
they
get the
hustling.
loan and then pass it to someone else. And so the title kept getting really messy. So she said sometimes that happens. So I was like, okay, maybe I should look at North Carolina, but I hear it's up and
Mm,
running. But I just hear
mm,
that that's one of the issues there. But it's
I
a beautiful
don't
place.
know. I
I'd
don't
like to,
know.
if you don't mind, I'd like to chime on that. In South Carolina, there,
Mhm.
I don't know if you've heard of the Gullah Geechee culture,
Mhm. Yes,
and they have the heirs properties. They're trying to keep the culture and trying to keep everything within the Gullah Geechee culture. So
yes.
they have the heirs properties, and it is really hard. It's really hard to tap into that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm a realtor in North Carolina. We're booming
Challenge
over
accepted.
here. We're booming over here. Best
Yeah.
Okay,
believe.
okay.
We've
Keep
we've
keep
been
me
a,
keep.
we've been the top 5 in the past maybe 10 years of places to live in the Triangle, the RDU area. We got Duke University, UNC.
Okay,
Everybody's moving here to the
Yeah.
Triangle.
okay,
Yeah, I
okay.
hear I hear North Carolina is really doing well, and I'm Gullah Geechee, so I
Oh,
understand.
okay.
But
So you
that's why
know
I
about that,
yes, but I
about the
bought
heirs property.
right, but I bought a property. I was buying a property in another area, And so it apparently it's this whole thing there that when you get tied up, it'll tie you up for a few years. And I didn't want to pay lawyers. I just told them to give me my earnest money back. And
Right.
I'll move on. So,
Yeah.
but but I had been in the process for months. And so it was just a waste
Yeah,
of
those are
time.
tough.
That's what I said. So I started saying, I might look at North Carolina because I hear some good
Those are
things
tough.
about North Carolina.
Yeah, I think more so north than south for us too. So, yeah, okay, okay, Kima, let's keep in touch. But to also
You better
answer your
come on to
question,
Texas.
yeah, right? So look, so the Texas question, right, about the person that you found out it was in, another person's name and stuff. And so
Uh,
we run into that a lot, right? Because, grandma willed the property over or, left the property to the grandkids or to the kids or what have you. And so a lot of times, right? That, and I'm sure Christina has talked about this, which is why, putting your properties in a trust is so important because no matter the will, it still has to go through probate, at least for Georgia, right? I'm only speaking on Georgia, right? Even if you have a will for your property or for your assets, it has to go through probate, right? Government is always going to be a part of that. Now, a lot of times if there are multiple siblings, they're not in agreement, right? And so we've bought properties in probate. Listen, I've been through it all, right? And so the thing about probate properties is you have to make sure you can get everybody on the same page, even if it's shooting them a couple dollars, right? We've gotten quick claims from all of the other siblings in order to, go ahead and have the administrator go through the process to approve the sale of the property and stuff like that. Sometimes the probate is still ongoing, and we have to, wait for that process to be completed. Probates take a very long time. I mean, the I waited a year and a half to purchase a property in probate, and it was an amazing deal. But I had to wait a year and a half, right? So that was a year and a half worth of salary that I had to pay. It was a year and a half worth of follow up. It was a year and a half worth of, paying the attorneys to do what they had to do. And so it's just one of those things where, again, to Michael's point, is we are problem solvers, right? And so no matter the problem, I mean, if it can't be solved, we'll find somebody who can help us solve it. And so, it's just one of those things where real estate has so many different ins and outs, especially in different states, right? This whole thing about the heirs, I never heard anything about that. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know, right? I don't pretend to know stuff that I don't, or you know what I'm saying? Like, because this is the internet, right? Internet age. People will call you out very easily. Like you could Google search anything that I've said in real time and know, you know what I'm saying, that is legit. So it's interesting. And so I have to make sure I keep an ear out for that stuff when we hit the Carolinas if we decide to go. So thanks for that
right.
tidbit. All right, what other questions? Do we have any other questions in the chat? Anybody else have questions?
Yes. What was that other link that you gave? You gave the tree, and what was the
So
other one?
yeah, fast people search, fastpeoplesearch.com. I think somebody already typed it in the chat.
Let me check that.
I
Thank you.
did.
You're welcome.
Hello, good night.
Good
I'm not sure if
night.
you said it already,
Hey,
but
you're from the
how do we get
islands?
who me?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, okay.
Florida.
Sorry. Oh, okay. All right.
Um,
Sorry.
how do
I
we,
don't like
no
it.
problem. How do we get the contract, the sales contract if we're not a realtor?
So, okay, several ways, right? You could be like me when I did and just download it from the internet. Don't do that, right? The easiest and fastest way of getting it is, reaching out to an attorney, a real estate attorney or a title company, um, and having them draft one for you. Most um, hold on one second. Don't use that email. Don't use that email. Here, let me put the email in that you guys are going to use. That is not my team does not track that email. The email, if you want to reach out to me, is going to be info@dowdeninvestments.com. Info@dowdeninvestments.com. Okay. And make sure you put whatever you're interested in the subject line and we can filter it that way. But that dowdeninvest at Gmail is not one that is monitored by my team. And I want them to, filter for you guys. But as far as contracts, so mentorship, right? We'll have contracts they provide for you. I would say your agreement is going to change with every transaction because there's going to be something that you find or that you learn that you want to add to it. We have agreements in ours, and so that's part of the course that we provide, right? We have all of our documents, an assignment agreement, purchase and sale agreement. You have your buy side of the purchase and sale, your sell side of the purchase and sale. You can technically assign a GAR form, right, which is the realtor form, right? But when you sign your name, or if you're using an entity, you need to sign it and or assigns, right? And slash or assigns. That would allow you the ability to assign it without having to add an assignment clause, or you can have them draw up a special stip, which is a special stipulation that you can add in there that it is an assignable, agreement or something along those lines. And so you can use that, right? So you can contact any agent and they'll be able to provide that for free. I mean, there's so many agreements online. I promise you, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it has, your name, the seller's name, the address of the property, the parcel number, purchase price. It has to have dates. Don't be a generic date person as an investor. We hate those. And sellers, it's kind of like taking advantage of a seller when you have just no dates at all. You want to put a solid closing date. You want to give yourself solid due diligence. And you want to have the closing attorney information on there. And you want to be able, to sign, obviously, have a signature page and stuff like that. I mean, other than that, you can find a lot of stuff through Google searching. And there are a lot of free agreements out there. Ours is just, the reason it's part of the course or whatever is because we spent a lot of money just getting a few things in, and it's a really basic contract, right? So our contract is like a 1.5 page, right? And I'm sure there are better contracts out there, better agreements out there. A GAR form or a realtor agreement is like 18 pages long. So for us as investors, we don't want to have to sit on a call for an hour and a half, 2 hours explaining an agreement. And a lot of the things that we're doing it as is. So we don't need to have any contingencies in there. We don't need to have any of the other stuff that are important, right? If you're going to live in the property, right? Because you are now taking that property on as your primary residence, right? From an investment standpoint, we're tearing stuff up, we're renovating, we're doing a lot of things. And so we don't necessarily need to have all of that stuff in there. As long as the title is clear, I mean, that's all that we're really interested in.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And do you buy deals as well? I guess like if I had something, I don't have anything at the moment, but if I had something,
Oh, of
um,
course, please do. Not only do we
okay,
buy, so we're again in 4 states. We're in all of Georgia. I mean, I think I go as far south as Albany. And as far east as Savannah, obviously. So we go to the coastline, and we go all the way to Alabama. So we run right through Georgia into Montgomery, Alabama. We're not in Birmingham just yet, but we are in Montgomery, Alabama. We're in all of Georgia. We're in central Illinois. So that is Peoria, not Birmingham, Bloomington. We are in Decatur, Illinois, and we are in, oh my gosh, Jesus, what's the other?
Ohio, I think you said.
Yeah, so no, we're in Ohio. We are in Cleveland, Ohio. So technically all of Cuyahoga County, so Northeast Ohio, but we're also in Summit County in Ohio. So we're in 4 states. Oh, Springfield, Illinois is the next city that we're in. So that kind of maps
Okay,
out central Illinois. So those are the cities that we buy and sell in. Now, if you have a property that's outside of those areas, we may be able, if we have investors in our network that can put you together with them at no extra cost, no extra fee. We're not going to charge for that. But we also pay referrals. So if you know people who have properties in those cities and states that are interested in selling, we pay up to $1,000 for referrals. And so,
okay,
you can kind of make some money that way. We pay people to bird dog for us as well, but it's not as much. And then we also we pay if you are in any of those markets that are not Georgia. If you want to, work with us and take pictures and stuff like that of properties, we do pay for pictures as well. So those are just some ways of
okay.
making some extra.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sir, all of this can be done virtually, right? We could use a mobile notary and everything else you could do from your office space. And so it's
Absolutely.
okay, cool, cool.
Absolutely. We were investing in Cleveland. Cleveland was our very first virtual market. We were in Cleveland for 3 years before I set foot in Cleveland. And the only reason I went to Cleveland was because I was setting up my first midterm rental. And so I did want to go out there and make sure and look at stuff like that. So it's that was the first time I went. And that was, I haven't been to Illinois, and we've been in Illinois for almost 2 years now. Well, a year and a half. So yes, to answer your question, you can absolutely do this virtually. Don't worry about the mobile notary. Let the attorney or the title company handle that, right? That's their job. That's what you're paying them for. They'll pass that cost on to the seller. That, as long as they can provide it, great. But for you, you don't necessarily, they can overnight you stuff. They can send you the mobile notary if you're selling. But if you're buying, you don't need a mobile notary. You don't have to have what is called a wet signature if you're buying. They can send you the documents virtually and you can e-sign those documents. So only if you're selling, you're going to need a wet signature, and then they can provide the mobile notary for you. What other questions? Ooh, are we
Hey,
coming to
yes,
an
yes.
end? Oh, go ahead.
I'm a realtor here in Cleveland, Ohio. Um,
Okay.
do you
Man, listen,
have?
are you warm? Are you warm?
Yes.
Okay. Because boy, Cleveland is cold right now. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
we live with it. This how we live. Well, look, once our blood thickens up, I see
Man,
folks out here with shorts on like they
no
crazy,
way. Ain't no way.
and 2 feet of snow.
Man, listen, I went up
And it,
there, I think it was April one year, and I had to buy a whole Eskimo jacket because I just couldn't deal with it, bro. Like I'm not cold. I'm from the islands. I am a hot weather, hot sun, cool breeze person. I can't deal. Like right now, it's cold in Georgia to me. I can't even deal with it, and we're like in the 40s. So
yeah, I
yeah,
can't
man,
stand the cold. We just deal with it. We live with it.
I got you. I
But
got you.
if I have properties and want to get with you or your people, how I just reach you through that info.
Yeah, just send me an email, bro. Just send me an email.
Good, because I got a couple in Cleveland and East Cleveland right now.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so we have maybe one buyer for East Cleveland. We don't buy in East Cleveland, but we'll wholesale in East Cleveland all day long. We've done it before. For whatever reason, bro, people are scared of East Cleveland. I absolutely love East Cleveland. Let me tell y'all something. East Cleveland, for all the people on the call, and I'm gonna promote Cleveland because I love me some Cleveland, right? I made a lot of money in Cleveland. East Cleveland is used to be a very wealthy area. I'm talking about big mansion size houses, right?
Rockefellers.
4,000 square feet, 5,000 square feet. I'm talking about, you guys ever hear of Rockefeller? It's over there. Okay. And so obviously through the years, right, it's turned, it's no longer that. And a lot of those properties went abandoned. And it's like, to the people outside of Cleveland, it's a war zone. Don't invest there. Terrible, yada, yada, yada. Man, if you have some money and you want to put up and you want to buy some rentals out there, listen, East Cleveland, I'm telling you, East Cleveland. But no, so we love Cleveland. We also just, full disclosure, we do work with agents. We have a dedicated agent, a realtor, but I don't mind working with others. We don't have anything exclusive with them. We do not buy on market properties. So if you're sending me listings, I don't want it. Okay.
No, no, not listings,
Only
not listings.
yeah.
Off
So
market.
anything off market, we'll look at it. We have one right now under contract, two under contract. That one property that I told you is off of Bonner Avenue, the one with the child support lien. So
Okay.
that is, I don't know what the zip code is, but yeah. So send me what you have, man. I'll take a look at it. And I'm usually I turn around pretty quickly. I'll underwrite and let you know kind of where we need to be as far as price, and then we can take it
Okay.
from there.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, appreciate it. It's Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, all
Thomas
right.
Lewis. Yep.
Billionaire. I like it. I like it.
Yes,
Uh-oh,
sir.
Christina then
Hey,
came
look.
back on
Hey, look.
camera and
Hey, if
she
I'm
about to
not
shut
doing,
us down.
hey,
You
look.
should be talking to the
If I'm
billionaires.
if I'm not doing anything, I'm learning from Christina. Believe that.
Of
Never, never,
course.
never. Look, you
Let
can't
me tell
never
you
stop
something.
learning.
Listen, I'm gonna say this, and it's not because she has me on here. In this business, right, you'll meet a lot of people who talk a lot of shit, right? And so forgive my language, right? I would say she's one of the most genuine people that I've met so far. And so if you're in this program with her, it's because you also believe in her and you trust in her. And I'll tell you, man, when you get people that show you what they're really saying, you want to hold on to them, man, because this business that we're in is a relationship based business. Whether you need her products or her service, or not, you know somebody who does, right? And so I'll tell you what she's telling you is fully 100% accuracy, and she knows what she's talking about. And so that's just my shameless plug, right? People need to hear these things, right? Because they'll only hear it from you, right? But I don't know if you bring other people on here. I think you do because I think you might have mentioned somebody. But you just want to know that the person that you're investing your time, your capital in, right, and investing in yourself is coming from a legitimate person. So shout out to Christina for all the good work that she's doing. And obviously, we're going to be doing some business at some point when it comes time to it. So
Thank you
shameless
so
plug.
much. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you so much. I appreciate everyone who is on this call. Thank you guys for staying to the whole entire
You shut
masterclass.
me
And
down.
I appreciate Mark, right? He's
Yeah,
like, you shutting
yeah.
it down? It's 9 o'clock. It's past my bedtime.
This is yes, this is true. I need to get another glass of wine. So, but listen,
This
before
was
we end
great
it,
though.
right? Yeah, I just, some red wine, ain't nothing too serious. But listen, if you guys want to reach out to me, right? If you have some other questions that may not have gotten answered, send me an email. I would say if you want to work with me, how are we going to do this? So if you're interested in the course, right? Again, this is not something that I market. I'm only saying it for people who may genuinely be interested. If you don't, I don't care. It's like $300. That ain't gonna hurt me either way, right? If you're interested in that, just put course on the subject line, and then you can talk about your investing journey, or how far are you along in the body, so we can kind of have an idea, and then obviously your contact information and your name. If you're looking to do business with us, then you can send put property in the subject line, and then put the property information in the bottom. I don't need a whole synopsis. I don't need a short story, right? Address, if you got pictures, a link to pictures, and your asking price. That's all we need. And obviously contact information for us to reach out to you. If you just have general questions, just put general question in the subject line and then shoot off those questions. I'll try to get to them as best and as quickly as I can. And so, yeah, if you just want to, talk real estate, I'm open to it. I'm one of those where I love talking about it. As you can see, we had to get kicked off the call tonight, right? Which I doubt anybody has ever done. So I'll be the first to say, right, you had to kick me off your call, right? But I just want to thank you guys for staying 2 hours in. We had about a 10% fall off rate, right? But that's okay. People got things to do, right? They don't, they got, families and stuff. But I thank you for those who did stay on and those who asked questions and stuff like that. At the end of the day, you're investing in yourself. And so, as much as we can help people get out of their rat race and get into investing and growing their assets and stuff like that, that's what we're here for. And so, I wish all of you success. I hope each and every one of you have assets that you can transfer into your trust, forward that over to your families to create this generational wealth, which we are doing currently. So shout out to y'all for real. And then
We
obviously, thank you,
can't hear
Christina,
you,
for having
Mark.
me.
Can
What
you
happened to
guys
the
hear him?
volume?
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Can't hear.
Oh, I don't know. Did we lose her? Can anybody hear me? Did you guys hear
Oh
me?
yeah, we can hear you
Okay.
now.
Now we can.
Wait, so you mean to tell me y'all didn't hear anything I just said?
Oh no,
No,
we did. We didn't hear like the last 60 seconds.
Oh my God. That was like oh man, I don't even remember what I said. So in short, thank you all for being here and listening to me for these 2 hours. Thank you, Christina, for having me. That's like the summary of what I was trying to say. But Dang, that was a big
Listen,
picture.
Mark is a wonderful resource. When I tell you that I bring my friends, that I bring the people that I know that are actually in the trenches doing it, right?
Mm.
No fake people that, they talk about it, but they don't actually do it, right? Um, it's the truth. And so I had to beg him to come on here several times. I'm like, the people need to know. Why? Because he's an encyclopedia when it comes to real estate. Okay, we have real estate talks almost every other day, don't we, Mark?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Every
do.
other day. Okay. So he is an enormous resource and you need to put him in your back pocket and he is willing to be there because he is so helpful. He's connected me with the right people. He's the reason why I have my pad split up and running. So I'm already in the co-living space because of Mark, right, Mark?
Yes, very much so.
Exactly. So you need people that can point you in the right direction and that can be a resource. And so now this is my gift to you, which is I'm sharing my resources with you. So thank you, Mark, for being here. I appreciate you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome. Definitely.
Because,
Thanks for
yeah,
having me, for
you
sure.
are a wealth of knowledge and you drop so many gems. And everyone, if you have questions, if you need to be pointed in the right direction, go ahead and email Mark. So I appreciate everyone on the call. Thank you guys. I love you so much. Next week is the workshop, okay? So Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. We're switching some things up, so you're going to see that the workshop looks a little bit different. It's the same information, but the way we deliver it is different, okay? So our pizza box is changing. So with that being said, we will see you guys on Monday, bright and early at 11 a.m. for the workshop. So you guys have an amazing and highly favored weekend. Bye, everyone.
Christina,
Yes, 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 I'm here. Huh?
quick question. I just
Yes.
heard something. Somebody said something to me about iPostal, that there was a problem, that they're oversaturated and there needed to be something to find another way. Have you heard anything like that, or is that just
This
some?
is the this is the first time that I'm hearing this.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just wanted
I
to
have an
bring that to
apostle.
your attention.
So
Yeah, I was just wondering. I was like, okay, because I was just about to, to do our program and to get
It
iPostal.
actually it might be maybe the address that they picked. Maybe there's like, an issue with the one address, but the whole company, no.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
but
Okay.
I always tell everyone go to the actual source. So go to iPostal, call
Okay.
them. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're
And great,
welcome.
great, 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 great program. Really
I
appreciate it.
know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tonight was awesome. So Mark is the GOAT, you guys, and I'm heavy into real estate. And you want to have like people who've been in it for over a decade who know what they're talking about. So with that being said, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in a couple of days. So get ready to start the workshop so that we can get this ball moving with our trusteeship. So bye, everyone.